views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you again. It's time for the Bronx Buzz. You may or may not know this is BronxNet's program where we talk to writers, reporters, editors, all different people who put stuff out in the Bronx, whether it be filmmakers and videographers. And this evening, we're going to talk to an author and also talk to a filmmaker. And so let's get it started and bring back to the program. The last time she was on, I got her book right here. The last time she was on, we had Eileen Markey here talking about A Radical Faith, which was her last book. But now, first of all, nice to see you, Eileen Markey.
Great to see you. Great to be with you, Gary.
She's also a college professor at my alma mater, Lehman College. And the book right above her, I guess that's her right shoulder or left shoulder. I can't tell which way we are on Zoom. There it is Without Compromise. It is an absolutely fascinating book. And even though it is a book about the past and about history, it brings us all right up to the current day. So Eileen, tell us about Without Compromise and what inspired you about the writings of Wayne Barrett, that you went and not only read it over again, but really did a full study of this former great Village Voice reporter.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me on. It's great to be here. It's great to be with Bronx people and part of this other Bronx institution. So this book is a collection. It's an anthology of the reporting of Wayne Barrett. Wayne Barrett was a legendary investigative reporter, a real muckraker for the Village Voice. He worked for the Village Voice from the late 70s until 2011. And he trained me and he trained, 100 other reporters and investigative reporters in the course of his career. More importantly, or as importantly, he produced some of the first and finest reporting on Donald Trump. So way back in 1979, when Donald Trump was a young developer, a real estate developer, just moving from Queens into Manhattan, the glitzy Manhattan real estate, Wayne Barrett did a deep dive of reporting on him. And really in that reporting way back then, revealed all the things that we keep learning over and over again about Donald Trump, about his racism, about his business practices, about his ethics. About the way he does business and the way he thinks or doesn't think about the common good. So Wayne Barrett died right before Donald Trump was inaugurated president, but his writing is cited all the time. Anytime there's a big investigative piece about the president or about Rudy Giuliani, Wayne Barrett's name shows up in it, and it always says, legendary investigative reporter Wayne Barrett first reported this in 1979, 1983. But a lot of that writing was not available. So Barrett's wife and a bunch of friends and people he trained said, we really should put together a book so that a new generation of readers can have access to this incredible journalism, this really prescient and important journalism. So that's how the book came into being. We wanted new readers to be able to read this, to understand how the country got to the state that we're in today. And really as a kind of defense of journalism or a cry of the heart of the value of real, serious, rigorous investigative journalism.
Before we get into the Trump stuff, and I remember reading Wayne Barrett about Rudy Giuliani and reading about Rudy Giuliani through Wayne Barrett in the Daily News. And I remember, because at that time I was beginning to do what I do now on television in the Bronx. And I remember reading it and going, finally, somebody got into it and told what actually was going on. That's the kind of thing he did through his career with The Voice, right? He was the expert on all of these things.
Yeah, because of really hard work, digging, an amazing mind, and this great drive. Whenever I talk to journalists, or have journalists come in to speak to my students in the journalism department at Lehman College, kids ask or students ask, right, what do you need to be a journalist? And I think the finest journalists always answer, you need to be angry. A good journalist is angry. The journalist is disciplined, rigorous, and mad that some things are wrong. And Wayne certainly had that anger that he was able to channel into doing this really high quality reporting to expose wrongdoing. And so in the book, you're able to see that sort of drive and that sort of work of what he put together.
You know, I'm very curious of this. What was he like because you were an intern, you said he trained you. It's fascinating now that, of course, an intern is writing a book about her mentor. What did you learn? Was he angry around students as well, or was he really because there can be value to that, of course, but what was it like to be around Wayne, and what did he teach you?
He was a really tough boss. He had incredibly high standards. He expected us to know everything about New York City and know all the places to find information and who we should be calling for things. On the first day of the job. And of course, nobody was up to that snuff, but we got there and we worked really hard. In speaking to some other former interns and people who trained with them in the course of working on the book and promoting the book, Jennifer Gonnerman, who's a writer at The New Yorker, put it, I think, best, really. She said, it was flattering. It meant that we were serious, right? He was taking us seriously enough to demand really high quality work of us. And he was saying that this business is serious, that to be a journalist means that you have this responsibility to the people. He described himself as a detective for the people, right? That this isn't about chit chat, that we've got serious work to do, that there's wrongdoing happening, that people are being taken advantage of. And it's the journalist's job to have the facts in order so that we can shine a light where corruption is happening, where somebody's got their hand in the public till. And he really loved that hunt. And he trained us to really love that hunt for facts and to believe that facts are knowable, that we could figure them out, that we can hunt them down and publish them, and then people will know more and the democracy will be stronger. I mean, it's a very idealistic belief, but one backed up by hard work and by 40 years of results, right? There's people who grand juries were impaneled because of Wayne Barrett articles. People went to prison because of Wayne Barrett articles. And in a day and age now where a lot of people get their information from totally unreliable sources, and when the president denigrates the profession of journalism, the only profession mentioned in the Constitution and specifically protected by the Constitution, we wanted to make sure that people would have access to this style, this quality of journalism. This is important work. We've got serious business to do, and you can have a heck of a good time doing it, right? Searching out the truth.
Well, I know you long enough and well enough to know that you also, as a journalist and as a writer, you generally don't compromise, and you always seek for a higher standard. You always seek for a higher understanding. And I'm now understanding that where it came from, that maybe we weren't born that way, but you learned that from Wayne Barrett. One of the things that I just thought was absolutely fascinating, and it was, we're talking about 1979, so you can do the math. It's, 41 years ago, 41 years ago.
45, yeah.
40, yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump had been interviewed by Wayne Barrett and then called him up to say, how are we doing? And this is, of course, coming out of your book. How are we doing? And then when, I don't know what Wayne might have responded, but he was like, did you see all the great stuff we're doing in New York? This related to exactly what happened with Bob Woodward. This is almost the same conversation that the president, after he realized, oh no, what did I do? Bob Woodward was going to do what he did, and he called up to try and pump it up. So much of what Wayne Barrett discovered is playing out in the president of the United States, right? We're right on it.
Absolutely, absolutely playing out. Absolutely, we knew the character of this guy when I was 3 years old, right? When many of your viewers were not born. And I think in these last couple of years, so many people in the United States have been feeling a sense of like loss and confusion. How did we get here? How did the country end up in this state? And this book really reads like a coroner's report. This book helps you understand how we got to this place, the decisions that were made, particularly in New York City after the fiscal crisis of the 1970s. The decisions that were made about how to rebuild New York, about who to direct money to, about what kind of compromises to accept, laid the groundwork for Donald Trump to be to be born into a huge and important figure. And they laid the groundwork for the problems that we have in the country today, right? Of vast wealth inequality, of really huge problems in terms of livability of the city, of high rents, right? But this concentration of wealth in the hands of people who already have wealth, and the diminishment of the public good, the diminishment of the public commons. If you read this book, you'll understand a little bit better how we got here.
How we got here, and the fact I have dialogues. Listen, we all go through social media and we see what people are commenting on, and there is a denial out there, and even from his supporters who say, well, no, he's not racist. My goodness, if you look at what he and his father did and the way they developed housing and who they let into housing and who they deliberately stated that they were not going to let in, it becomes an undeniable and inconvenient truth, if you will, about what we're seeing.
Right, like court documented racism, right? This isn't like saying a bad word once in a while. This is documented by a federal court that you have racist policies. And of course, this was published in 1979, and it didn't stop New York City from giving him millions of dollars in tax breaks. It didn't stop all the, the mandarins of New York State and New York City from continuing to do business with him.
And I have to tell you, we're almost out of time, but I have to tell you, if you read the study in the New York Times of all of the people who Donald Trump has continued to pump for money for his private businesses while he was president, this is exactly what is documented there. One last thing I just want to hit on before we got to go. You didn't just read this stuff and then write reviews. You went to Texas and looked up all the documents. I mean, congratulate. I guess that's what you learned from Wayne Barrett on how to work. But just talk briefly about the kinds of things you did that helped uncover a lot of what you found.
Yeah, the famous thing about Barrett is that he would get the document, right? He would get the grand jury report. He would get the thing that had been notarized by some shady concrete dealer, right? He would get the piece of paper and then he could write the article. So when putting together this book, it was a similar hunting expedition because most of the Village Voice is not digitized. So anything he wrote before they were online, which is before 95, it was hard to find. And I had to go, it felt very much like the sort of work we did with him. And I loved that. It was kind of meta. So his papers are at the University of Texas because the University of Texas has a great archive specifically devoted to American journalists. And so I went there and there's hundreds of boxes of his notes and of the work that the interns did. And, manila envelopes with all kinds of notes, task lists, call so-and-so, look up this, get that lawsuit. Here's interview notes with so-and-so, phone numbers, lawsuits, tax records, personnel records.
And so, listen, we're going to have to run, but yeah. So here you are, an intern of Wayne Barrett, and then who you just said did all the groundwork, the grunt work to get information, and then you went and did the same thing. I think it's as good a tribute in addition to the work that you put out. The other thing, if you believe in karma, if you believe in the world, it's almost as if Wayne Barrett did not live to see Donald Trump become president, and he died January 19th, 2016, the day before Donald Trump became president. If you wrote it in a book, nobody would believe it.
And then continued to haunt him. So all throughout these 4 years, he's invoked in any piece of serious investigative journalism. So that's why we have Without Compromise, so other people can enjoy that, that righteous anger and that really high quality journalism.
Yeah, and you've done a great job in simply got it done and documented it. The book is Without Compromise. Please check it out. Available wherever you get books. I mean, now you can get them everywhere. You can sit at home and get a book. And so please do that and learn about American history. And Eileen Markey, let's see. So we have Radical Faith. We have Without Compromise. I don't know what's next, but whatever it is, you'll come, when Bronx people do stuff, that's it.
To be with you.
Listen, all the best to you. And thank you for just doing great work and uncovering something that we all need to see. Without Compromise by Eileen Markey. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Great.
employ.
We're going to take a short break, folks, and then we're going to have a couple of Bronx filmmakers who are maybe not the same stuff, but they're generating. I can tell you that. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scale of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
Reporting from BronxNet, this is Trans.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We're going to switch gears pretty significantly here and say hello to two great Bronx filmmakers. And so Zef Cota is with us. Nice to have you with us again, Zef.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. And also Manny Amadeo is with us. Nice to have you with us, Manny.
Thank you.
Right, no problem. Let's start with you, Zef. Now, you've been around a little while. We know that because you've been on Bronx Talk and you've been with us before. Let's just talk about you and your career. Now, we met, I guess, and you were a filmmaker, but you were just telling me that you're kind of working on larger projects in kind of a different role. Talk to me about where you're at right now.
Absolutely, Gary. I've been, in addition to making my own projects, as far as writing and directing, I've also been producing other filmmakers' projects. I'm producing a film called The Smiler right now, which we just did a short that's been in the festival circuit. We just won the Coney Island Film Festival for Best Horror Short, and that's starring Paige Howard and Eva Visco, and we're expanding that out into a feature. And I'm also working on getting my next feature film going called Jooks, as well as doing branded content and commercial work, in addition to mentoring film students professionally through a program called Film Connections.
Do you find one more rewarding than the other in terms of making your own film? I mean, watching a production come to life is certainly, a wonderful thing. But now that you're looking at other people's work, I mean, just talk personally about how that feels to you.
Well, personally, I find each step of the way rewarding, and I really love, just from getting a project together from an idea, just the inception of the idea, and to the finished piece itself. So that's really exciting to me. But I'm also been really passionate about mentoring younger filmmakers, including Manny, who I helped shepherd his film along.
One last question for you before we bring Manny into the conversation. Let's just talk about trends. I find, and we invite many of the filmmakers on here, there are a lot of horror films out there. There's a lot of real desire to represent, I hate to put it this way, hardcore Bronx, hardcore New York that people don't fully understand. And so a lot of the young filmmakers I'm seeing now have a real passion. They want to tell a story that has not been told. Am I onto something there? Do you see that a lot?
Absolutely. I think that's really important to me personally. And my feature-length film, The Trouble, it was centered in the South Bronx, and it was a big part of the motivation there was just to tell a real authentic Bronx story and to see a part of the city that's hardly ever told on film.
Mm-hmm. And I think in many ways it cuts to the grassroots nature of independent films. They want to tell a story that nobody else is telling, or nobody else is telling in that way or portraying. And listen, TV does one thing. I mean, I know it because I'm in the middle of it, but it gives you an opportunity in kind of an unstructured way to really tell a story. So I think on that note, it's a good moment to bring in Manny Amadeo. Manny, nice to have you with us this evening. Talk to me about your interest in film and where you've been and what got you to this point that you're making a film.
Well, it all started for me with me starting this program called Film Connection. I was into directing, basically film production, and it intrigued me to sign up for this program. And what I liked about this program was it was hands-on. So I'm really quick in catching up into hands-on stuff, programs. And once I got in, they introduced me to Zef. This is my mentor, and he showed me the ropes, and he showed me everything I needed to know: location scouting, pre-production, production sets, and not post-production. So
yeah, there's a lot of things I think, you know, nowadays, because technology is available to anybody. I mean, everybody's got a phone and they practically can make a film out of that.
Right.
But if you do it right, and if you are a real filmmaker, then you've got to even location scouting. People might not, you know, they think is just turn it on and do that. Talk to me about your, you know, internal motivation, about some of the things that I just talked with Zef about. What compels you? What stories are interesting to you?
The ones that is not really told much. For example, like in society today, a lot of people they don't understand like the policing and the government and stuff like that. It's just there's more to that, and people don't understand that the reason why police do certain things is because they are trained to do it that way. They just don't say it. As I have a friend who's also in the police force, and he tells me those are the procedures that they are trained to detain people. But when I did my feature film, my short film, I'm sorry, I didn't want it to show that it's necessary for police to use guns every time they confront in confrontation. And I want the message for this film is basically, especially undercover cops, they don't have to carry themselves and use their weapons every time. They could, they can use their hands.
Yeah, let me just interject. This feeds right into what Zef and I were just talking about. You know about something, you have a passion about something, and you want to portray it in some way that can be effective. You know, you can write a story, you can do an interview on television, but here's a living and breathing entity that goes out and tells that story. We should mention the name of the film is A Wounded Soul. Tell us where the film is at right now, Manny, because it's not ready to go just yet, but where is it at and what are the plans for it?
Right now, the film is in post-production. They're currently editing the film right now. There's a teaser that was released earlier today. I'm not sure you had
We're
it.
going to show it. We're about to show it.
Great.
So we should mention that it's a teaser, not a trailer.
Yes.
And frankly, as I understand, they actually did it for this appearance on the program. We appreciate it. I got to tell you, you know, I am not a filmmaker, but I'm a consumer. And it's only 30 seconds long, and we're going to take a look. I was frightened. I'm sorry. In 30 seconds, and there's no audio on it either. You can only imagine what they're saying. But you know, so congratulations on it. Let's take a look. Wounded Soul by Manny Amadeo, and we'll take a look right now. Seconds of Wounded Soul. Zef, when you look at that, I know as a consumer and not an expert, what makes me think, wow, this looks like it's really done very, very well. What technically works for you in this and in Manny's work? And even take a little credit, what did you advise him to do with this particular film?
I actually advised Manny to let the visuals really push the narrative of the story instead of many young filmmakers that are just getting started really try to hinge on the dialogue. And so Manny's script was really great in the sense that he put a lot of visual cues for us to really be able to kind of tell the story in that sort of way.
And are you? I mean, I realize we just saw the tease. Are you happy with what you're seeing here?
I'm happy with it. I'm very happy, and I'm very proud of Manny for really on his directorial debut.
Well, so I'm going to offer the congratulations. Thank you so much. Now, Manny, you also are interested in broadening the scope a little bit. It's not only I'm making a film, which is difficult enough, but you have a broader vision about this. Tell me a little bit about the production company.
I wanted to do is at the film, well, my upcoming production, New Age Era production, just started early this month, and When the Soul is just one of the first short films for this for this production. So when people see my film for the first time, I want them to know that I want them to get intrigued into knowing more about my production, because there's more for me to give out. And right now, I'm starting a second short film soon. It's in production right now. It's called Ace for Blood. And
Manny, we're going to have to go. How can people follow you or follow the film and get to see Wounded Soul?
Right now, I just started my production. We don't have a website yet. We're gonna have a website soon, and I'll let you know as soon as I get it.
We want you to do that.
Yes.
Listen, we got to run. Manny Amadeo, congratulations on your work. Boy, nothing that BronxNet Television and me and the Bronx Buzz and all of us love more than providing an outlet for young, creative Bronxites to do their thing, to tell our story in their own way. I mean, you know, we talk about your voice, your views, your vision. That's what we're all about. And you embody that. And we really appreciate you being with us.
Thank you.
And Zef, you too, man. You never stop. I know that. I love that about you.
Thank you, Gary.
And so we'll see you around town, and we're all going to just keep cranking it out because it's all so important. Nobody knows our story like we do, and we're telling it in this case in film.
I really appreciate you for telling so many wonderful Bronx stories, Gary.
That's all right. That's all right. Listen, we're all working together. Hey, that's it for the Bronx Buzz. Thanks to Eileen Markey for joining us and her great work and her book. Thanks to our filmmakers, and we'll see you next week. A special on Bronx Talk this week. We're going to do 2 different shows. We're going to do a show about healthcare and also a feature about Hispanic culture in the Bronx. Good night.